Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing fighting for your ex causes this. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing fighting for your ex causes this. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you will have a natural instinct to fight for them. This will likely mean you concentrate all of your time and effort on plotting, planning, and contacting your dumper. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 things that will likely happen when you fight for your ex in this way. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is your ex's ego will inflate. So when we discuss about fighting for your ex in the way that I'm referring to in today's podcast, you are going to inflate your ex's ego. So there are various ways you could describe, I suppose, you saying, yes, I'm trying to fight for my ex. But the way I'm going to connect it to today's podcast is the way that I think most of you, as dumpees, would likely have thought of, certainly initially, and some of you probably still to this day. It's the mentality of, I was in a relationship with someone, I still love them, they've dumped me, I don't really understand why, or maybe even you do understand why, but you don't like this decision, you want to stay together, you don't want your ex to go on their own path, and hence, you're going to quote-unquote fight for them. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to do whatever I can to get you back. Now, the problem with this approach is that for you to try and quote-unquote fight for them in this way, you are likely going to come to the conclusion that you need to speak to your ex-dumper to persuade or to show the changes that you are trying to suggest you're going to make. Maybe these aren't changes per se, maybe these are extra things that you are now going to be doing in your mind and in the life ahead of you. You think I'm going to do things extra to what I did before, or perhaps, as I've just said, it could be that you're going to change the way you did things previously. Whatever it is, if you are considering fighting for your ex in this way, you are going to inflate their ego because it's going to come across as desperate. Even though your intentions are genuine, even though you mean well, you are going to be inflating your ex's ego by suggesting to them, certainly on a subconscious level, if not on a conscious level, that they are better than you, that without them, you can't live a happy life. You may have even said that. You may have said, I can't live a great life without you. I need you in my life. I'm only half a person without you. I need you by my side. You are my better half. All of those types of things you're going to be conveying, if you're not literally saying it, just via your actions. And by doing this, your ex-dumper is going to be thinking within themselves that you as a dumpee are a lower value individual. Now, I'm not speaking about this as a human perspective. I'm not saying you are a low value human being. I'm saying that within the relationship dynamic that you and your now former partner had, you would be seen as the low value person within it, and they would be the higher value. You're begging them. You're saying, I would do anything to be with you, whereas they are saying, I don't want to be with you. So if you see it from that dynamic, you're basically saying, I'm low value and you're high value. Now, the problem with this is that when we look at relationships which tend to last the test of time, the value dynamic is generally fairly level. Those scales of value are fairly level for most people and couples who have successful relationships. So when we see a situation where there is a huge value discrepancy within the scales, this is not likely to last the test of time. And unfortunately, you are already broken up. So if you want to try to get your ex back, you should be trying to align the scales of value, not worsen the dynamic even further, because the fact they've ended the relationship would suggest that they don't feel, as a dumper, that their life is going to be fulfilling and successful in their own mind moving forward with you. They've decided they need to make a change because they don't feel the connection works anymore. and hence the value dynamic is already not in your favour. They've made a decision, they've actioned the breakup. That is what they want, and that is what has happened. You didn't want that, and right now, you're not getting your own way. So as we can see, they already have the power, they already have the value. If you start begging, pleading, reasoning, doing all of these things post-breakup, unfortunately, you're going to be widening the gap, not levelling it out. Now, please don't get me confused. At the time of the breakup, you're absolutely able to say your piece. At the time where your ex-dumper is saying to you, I'm sorry, it's over, I'm breaking up with you, you can say your piece. You can, quote unquote, fight for your now ex at that time. But what I'm referring to is post-breakup, and there is a difference. If you were dumped in person, you can say your piece. If you were dumped over text, you can say your piece. If they called you, you can say your piece. You see what I'm saying here? At the time of a breakup, you can say what is on your mind. This is understandable. This is natural. This is human instinct. This is emotion. I don't suggest you overly beg and plead if possible, but we're all human beings. We're not robots. It's likely to happen. That's fine. That's not going to dictate what happens in the future regarding the breakup itself. Breakups are messy. Breakups are emotional. We say things that perhaps in the future we wish we hadn't. That is not likely to be a problem for you. What could be a problem is if you continue to act in this needy way, begging, pleading, reasoning post-breakup in the weeks, months, if not years following. That is what is going to cause you a problem. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube, and if you have a new hype feature, please hype this video as well. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is your anxiety will explode. So today we're speaking about if you fight for your ex, it will cause this. And point number 2 is your anxiety as a dumpee will explode. You will be analysing everything. If you are behaving in the way that I've described, if you're plotting, if you're planning, if you're trying to analyse every single thing that has happened between you and your now former partner during your relationship, at the breakup, post-breakup, you are going to be driving yourself insane. Checking social media 24/7, trying to see patterns which don't really exist. These are the things which are going to make you feel a lot worse rather than a lot better. On top of that, it's very unlikely to help you increase the chance of getting your ex back. It's not likely to help you if you behave in this way, because ultimately you're going to be making yourself feel extra nervous, not just anxious, but nervous within your communication. And if you hear from your ex again, this could work against you. Imagine a situation where for months you've been checking your ex's social media. You've been focusing on interactions and trying to draw conclusions, trying to create mathematical equations of what this means and what that means. And this has been going on for months. And then one day you're walking down the street and you bump into your ex. You can't believe it. You didn't expect to see them, and here they are. Your ex looks at you and says hello. And at that point, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. Everything that you had thought that you had planned seems to have gone out of the window because you've put so much stress on yourself. For all of the ideas that you had if this ever took place, it's all suddenly forgotten. You are a mumbling mess of a person, not the person that is likely to reattract your ex. Instead of focusing on you, you've been focusing on your dumper 24/7 post-breakup. What are they doing? What are they likely to be doing? Who is it with? Why did they dump me? Why will they come back to me? Will they ever come back to me? Do they like me? What's going through their mind? All of those things 24/7, weeks and weeks, months and months. Then you bump into them and you are a mess. You're not going to be focused on what you need to do. And what you actually need to do is just be yourself. Be happy, carefree and fun. Be relaxed. Be calm. Be stable. These things are not likely to happen if you've been overanalyzing. And you'd likely be overanalyzing if you have the mindset of, I need to fight for my ex. Because every single day is about plotting, planning, research. This isn't going to help you. You're putting your energy, you're putting your time in the wrong place. You're not focusing on what needs to be focused on and instead are focusing on your dumper. This won't help you. And it is the thing which I see time and time again with people misunderstanding what it means to try to get their ex back. When people think of trying to get an ex back, when people think about trying to reconnect, their thought, and I'm not blaming you for thinking this way, but I'm just saying that from my own research, it doesn't seem to be the right course of action. But what people mostly think of at the time of when they're trying to consider how to get their ex back is, what is my ex doing? What can I do to alter their thoughts? How can I get into their mind and persuade them that I'm actually their best option? They want to persuade them. They need to beg and plead and reason. These are the things which will not help. Because as I've said, not only is it going to cause problems regarding your ex thinking they're better than you by you inflating their ego, but you're going to be an anxious mess. You're going to be in a really bad state. And if you bump into your ex, or even if they just reach out to you via text, you're likely to make mistakes because instead of focusing on you, you're focusing on them. And that is the problem. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website, www.datetome.tips, for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is it takes time away from you. So as I mentioned briefly in point number 2, you are focusing on the wrong thing if you're just focusing on your dumper. And the correct thing that you should be focusing on is, in fact, yourself. You're taking time away from you. You should be fighting for you and not your ex. And here is the paradox for people who are trying to get their ex back. To get your ex dumper back, it's not about focusing on them, it's about focusing on you. It's about rebuilding yourself to a position of where you are deemed by them to be an attractive option. Now you might think, well, how does that work? They've dumped me. They don't see me as an attractive option. But that's the point of why you need to focus on you. And you don't need to be contacting them and saying, hey, look how good I am. I now go to the gym twice a week. Or hey, look how good I am. I've got this new job. Or hey, look how good I am. I can now play the guitar. You don't need to be telling them these things in a direct way. You live your life in a sense where your ex-dumper is likely to find out in different ways. And even if they don't, just the power of your absence can be enough to draw them in. You're much more likely to reattract your ex by not contacting them rather than contacting them and trying to persuade them to come back to you. If you live your life for you, if you focus on you and your journey, if you don't chase your ex, then you become mysterious. Your ex-dumper is wondering where you are rather than wishing you would stop texting them. And if they're wondering where you are, they're going to start filling in the blanks in their mind. This might be right, this might be wrong, just as you do right now when you think of your dumper. But what we can say, and what you are likely experiencing, is it can play on your mind and it can pull on you. This is what will likely happen to your ex-dumper in reverse. They will start thinking about you more and more, the less they hear from you. So I suggest, as a dumpee, in most instances, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. That provides a baseline of you creating the mystery and the intrigue to try and reel your ex-dumper in to one day hopefully reach out to you. But you shouldn't be sitting around doing nothing. You should be working on yourself. And in point number 2, I was saying that if you bump into your ex and you're just focusing on them, your communication skills are likely to be bad. So to make sure this isn't the case, communication is something I absolutely believe you should be working on when you are apart from your ex. But you're not going to be improving your communication skills by focusing on your dumper. You're going to be improving your communication skills by speaking to new people. Which is why one of the suggestions I make to dumpees, even though it flies in the face, you might say, to get your ex back, is to consider dating new people. And even if you don't want to go on a date, just joining online dating platforms allows you to speak with new people. Even if you don't actually get to the point of meeting someone, just by speaking, communicating, having interactions with different people who theoretically could be dates is going to improve and enhance your communication skills. See it as practice for if you bump into your ex. Now, of course, if you don't actually meet anyone new, if you don't practice your communication skills in the real world, then they are not going to be as good as they can be if and when you bump into your ex. Yes, if your ex texts you, then you could use some of those new texting skills you picked up, but to make sure you're ready for anything, I do suggest you go on some physical dates. As long as you're respectful to the other person and you say, hey, I'm not too long out of a breakup, I'm not sure what I'm looking for, I want to take things slow. If you say those types of things and they agree to meet you, then you're not hurting anybody. And you never know, they might actually be thinking the same thing. Also important to add is perchance you might even prefer this new person to your ex, but I know right now you don't believe that, you don't think it's possible, but it's important for me to add. But the important thing to take away from today's podcast is that if you are fighting for your ex, you're not actually likely to get them back. If you want to fight for your ex, switch your mindset and actually fight for you. Concentrate on you, grow as a person, become a version 2.0 of yourself. And if you live your life the right way, that is how you will increase the chance of getting your ex back. Not by chasing, texting, calling, knocking on their door, begging, pleading, reasoning. That is not likely to work. But instead, work on you to get them back.